Yeah, let's go. Now, I'm not gonna try and do B-roll of coffee. That's been done before many times on the internet by people way more talented than I am. So I'm just gonna leave it as I made a cup of coffee in my trusty AeroPress using a different kind of ground. I mean, it's coffee, it's 100% Arabica coffee. It's from Unived. It's Unived's coffee for athletes. Now, before I get into my thoughts on what it's been like to drink this coffee, I do wanna go over some disclosures after this truck goes by. This is coffee that was sent to me for the purpose of review, so I did not have to pay for it. However, Unived's not paying me, and no one's paying me to make this video or to drink this coffee. And no one's gonna get a chance to preview my footage or thoughts before that beautiful B-roll footage, before you guys get a chance to see this video on YouTube. So with the disclosures out of the way, let's talk about Unived's coffee for athletes. Here's the thing, I know a lot about certain kinds of coffee. I drink coffee all the time. I've made videos about how much coffee I drink, and in that video I did drink like a week's worth of all coffee in pretty much K-cups. So that, I think, pretty much explains to you like my level of like coffee snobdom, like where I fit. I generally find myself in the quantity over quality category, although I do love a good dark black coffee. I almost always drink it black. Once in a while, my wife and I will have what we call weekend coffee, which is just regular, like dark, like a really dark black coffee with some warm and frothed milk on top and maybe a little bit of sugar. So we might make ourselves like kind of like a cafe au lait, kind of like a misto. So like that kind of stuff is what we call kind of weekend coffee around here. These days we're really lazy and I don't have a frother here, so our weekend coffee is just like black coffee with a little bit of sugar in it. So with that kind of preamble out of the way, let's talk more about this coffee. So what makes it coffee for athletes? Well, first let's talk about what makes it coffee. Like I said, it's 100% Arabica coffee. It comes from the Chickamauga region. Normally, if I pick a region where coffee comes from, I tend to like, if I'm gonna go single origin, Latin American coffees. It has a pretty straightforward flavor, nothing too complicated, nothing too complicated, very straightforward, a good just coffee flavor, and nothing too nuanced, nothing that tastes like chicory. I detest the flavor of chicory. So anything that's too like earthy, I generally just don't like. I just like coffee to taste like coffee. And so that's where I'm coming from in that. And what the flavor of this coffee is a little bit milder than I kind of generally prefer. So if you're looking for a straightforward cup of coffee, this is kind of a good option for you. Now let's talk about what makes it coffee for athletes though. And the main thing that I think that's in here is isomaltulose. So basically some kind of sugar is in here. In fact, when you look at the nutrition facts on the back, it says that there's 10.7 grams of carbohydrates per serving, and part of that comes from 1.8 grams of sugar. So the isomaltulose definitely makes it sugary. I can taste it, I can feel it, like touching my AeroPress, like seeing it afterwards. There's like a sugary film on all the parts kind of afterwards as well. So definitely something sugary that's in there. And it kind of has that weekend coffee flavor for me that me and my wife enjoy. But I would say it's different than kind of like when I normally add just like sugar or a sugar substitute, or even like sugar in the raw to my coffee. It's a little bit, I want to say malty, but that's maybe because it's isomaltulose that's in there, but it's a little bit more rounded. It's not as quite as sharp of a sweetness. I'm not really sure. I don't have a great vocabulary for explaining flavors. So it's a mellowed sweetness that goes along with it. So that's like the flavor profile. a little bit of a weaker feeling coffee and a slightly mellow, sugary taste to it. Now, the two main things that it touts on the package as it's able to do is to improve concentration and also boost fat metabolism or fat oxidation. Now, I have not done any taste testing myself of the fat oxidation. This is the second bag of the coffee they sent me. I have drank one other entire bag of this, not at once, but over a period of time. I have been drinking this coffee. So over the time, I've kind of had a sense of not just an initial taste flavor, which I kind of gave my first impressions, or did give my first impressions during a live stream a couple of weeks ago now. But it looks almost like I can't show, maybe I could show it to you guys. But it's not like the same color and texture. It's almost like clumpy, very different than coffee. But my overall longer term impressions of it is I don't know that it really improves my concentration, and I'm not really sure how to kind of quantify that. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. Whether it's more or less, there's just not a real way for me to do a double blind study on myself and match the sugariness, and then how do I quantify concentration? Person, woman, man, camera, TV. But in either event, the overall feeling that I get from drinking this coffee is that it's kind of like the taste of coffee with the buzz of tea. And so if those of you who are familiar with kind of the caffeine buzz from coffee and the stimulant buzz you get from tea, it's a little bit different. I feel like caffeine is a little bit more of a staccato, it hits you. It's more just it ramps up faster, and it also kind of ramps down a little bit faster as well. I think that tea is a little bit more subtle. It might be a way to kind of explain it. The other way of thinking of it is it's not as high a high, but it's a more even keel. And so I just think that this coffee kind of does that. I think the sugar and the way my body is breaking it down, it's kind of letting me down when the caffeine has already kind of dipped. Maybe that's what's going on. That's kind of overall in my head how I'm feeling about this coffee and kind of what I think about it. I do find that it's pretty tasty. I like having it even in the afternoons, because that's kind of when usually around live stream time, which is 3 p.m. not to plug my own stuff, but 3 p.m. is when we do the live streams, and so usually around then I'm kind of looking for a snack, kind of looking for something. I do find myself wanting to have a little bit of coffee right before the live stream. And the other thing is then then I'm a little bit more peppy, a little bit more talkative, which helps kind of get me ready for a live stream when I'm doing a lot of talking. But I kind of like the coffee. Overall though, I'm not sure that I'd really go out and buy this as my everyday, every single cup coffee. I like having it around as every once in a while, all right, let's do something different than what we're normally drinking, switch it up a little bit, try something a little bit different. It's an interesting thing to have. Who do I recommend this coffee for? I recommend this coffee for people who kind of like having things. What is up with the traffic today? The traffic is just insane. Traffic is just crazy today. Truck after truck after truck. So many trucks today. So ultimately, who is this coffee for? Is it a coffee for athletes? I think perhaps. I think it's an interesting way of branding coffee. I think for me, I would give this as a gift to another avid runner or an avid triathlete or someone who's an endurance athlete, because it's just kind of a fun, different way of looking at coffee. It has a little bit of extra sugar, which I think endurance athletes always kind of appreciate. I also think I'm not sure I'd give this to your super ultra coffee snob friend though, because I think that they would go nuts over it. I think it'd probably make some people a little bit mad. But I think that the gift angle is a good one. I also just do like having it around. I'm not sure that I would regularly buy this on my own though. So that's where I kind of feel like I would love it if it gets gifted to me or something like this. Because I think having kind of novelty coffee, something different, out of the ordinary from what you would normally buy is always fun to have something like that around and have that in the kitchen. But I don't know that it's something that I would buy for myself. but it is kind of fun to have around. So those are my thoughts on coffee for athletes by Unived. Let me know in the comments if you have any other questions. I'll do the best that I can to answer them with my very limited coffee vocabulary there to have, but I'll do the best that I can. Thanks for making it all the way to the end of this video, everybody. Hopefully you guys are being safe out there on your runs, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?